Hey everybody, this is another episode of Deconstructing the Code 3. My name is Rydo. We are doing this in parts because the first episode was just really the first two puzzles. And sure, that was a really cool puzzle that we triggered going all the way down that way and all the way from this section. But there's tons more still to go. If you don't know what's going on, you didn't watch the code 3 by me and this isn't really going to help you that much. This is deconstructing the code, very much in the sense that we are breaking it apart and figuring out how things work. Let's see. These, of course, are just maps. If I drop this and click this, it's just a map. Interesting, it's clear, so you can see the item frame. That's interesting. We don't need that though. So this is the yellow room, and that is, I believe, this. So the end of the spinning section. So every time this button was clicked, it went through this entire circuitry. Let's just take a moment to look at the circuitry. It creates a single pulse tick with this mechanism. That tick goes through this entire circle. Alright, so there is one here that's not being powered. In fact, none of them are being powered except for this block right here is being powered, and when it's powered, it's hitting this, which sets it as a quartz, and then sets several other things as a quartz, and turns on the redstone lamp somewhere else, and sets our scoreboard setting as accurate. Interesting. So that scoreboard setting for players set all players R1 equals 1, R1 equals 0. So this sets specific blocks as quartz, but it doesn't bother to change as many, because there's a good 4 blocks here that get turned to stone and get turned to quartz in R1. And I guess it doesn't matter, because here's the scenario where it is correct, here's the scenario where it is incorrect. So as soon as you go from correct to incorrect, you would power this block and that would activate this. I wonder why there is a block right here. Is there an extra command block that gets summoned here? I don't know. Maybe it makes a redstone block here. If it does, that would make sense, and I'm not seeing any commands that make a redstone block. Quartz block, that's all I'm seeing. And so with each rotation, each time we press it, it's just setting one block that way. And that's all it's changing. It doesn't have to change the scoreboard. It doesn't have to do anything else. It's just needs that. The one that's right, and then the one that's wrong right after the one that's right is the only thing necessary. Now, how this works is quite genius. It each one of these repeaters here is getting powered by this one tick pulse off. So right now every single one of these is locked in the on off position. If the power is coming up over this as a bridge to power these, so this bridge isn't actually as special as it looks. The only real trouble here is you have to make sure you're not powering this block and the redstone on top of it. That's why it goes 2 steps up. But there was a pulse of redstone energy going through here, and it's still going through. And so by getting just that slight pulse, this slight, just like that, it goes here. And then if we do that again, it should go to the next one. That's the correct one. And if we do it again, that's the incorrect one. Genius circuitry. Real genius. These are a couple spawners. They probably, I don't know what they actually are spawning and summoning. But here we have our standard correct code. If we get it, give us points. Set it as a score, and sets a redstone block somewhere else, which probably they all probably set a redstone block somewhere. Alright, so here's your paper that gets refilled. Nothing too special about that. And right below it is your teleport to your regular map place, which is just the same commands. Now this here is sadly where it got messed up. This is the mirror room, and it's supposed to summon falling sand right here. And this is falling sand, but for some reason it just doesn't work. I can't punch it. I can prove it's falling sand by punching the floor away, and then it will just fill up these things and turn them into stones after they fall. We're actually below the mirror room right here. Test for score clicked minimum 5. Interesting. Maybe I didn't click on it enough, I don't know. For one reason or another, this command just didn't work. Falling sand, here it's being summoned. Here's the other piece of the falling sand. The rest of these are test for score clicked equals this, and as each one of these tests for if it's been clicked a minimum of certain times, it unlocks one of those lanterns. Clicked 9, and here once everything's set is our lamp. So let's just go point this out. Here's the redstone lamps. They are getting powered by repeaters in this case, and just simple other things in other cases. I broke some circuitry there. There we go. But alas, this problem could not be fixed, and I had to cheat. And I hate to have to cheat. There's really no reason, so I broke it. And I shouldn't have had to break it. I shouldn't have had to break it at all. Each one of these lamps simply being powered. These lamps down here are actually the source of it, so that the mirror effect stays working. So they definitely wanted each of these lights back here to work, and then you want everyone supposed to see that. And I imagine this doorway was just created by setting these two blocks as air. I don't see any pistons or anything. And so this is how you do a mirror room. This is just architecture of it. Just ice. We need a clear glass. Yes, we could do barrier blocks with this. Let's see. We can't do barrier blocks now, but uh, but in the future, that would be one way of doing it. See, this is just a fake room in case you could see a little bit down that direction. But we need clear glass. It needs to be totally clear and no streaks. Nothing like this. So that got on the slowness. Now the question is, how was he sensing that the items were being hit? On the sides here, we're seeing nothing. We see a whole bunch of these down below, and we have that up above. How is he doing it? Scoreboard add at a clicked 1. Score set block fill lit redstone lamp. Set block redstone block. Let's see. Summon a slime. A size of 0, invulnerable when riding another slime. Invulnerable with an active effect. Riding another slime with an active effect. Riding another slime with an effect. Wow. So he's doing it with slimes. Amazing. He must have summoned all kinds of slimes in this game. In this room, hidden. And because of that, we did it. Now each one of these is turning it off. So under each thing we're seeing a slime. Let's go ahead and turn some of these back on and go back up there. Let's see. So somewhere right about here is a slime. At least that's hidden, that's invisible. Unfortunately, there'd be no way to see it without going into spectator mode. Let's see. And so when we hit the slime, wow. So that was the thing. Let's go back down. It has a whole program of at least a few things. And when we put something, I can't put a block right there. Interesting. Interesting. So I think there's actually 2 of them being summoned on this one in particular, because there's 2 sides of it. That is a very interesting trick. I'm not sure I'd ever use it myself. but it is rather intriguing. So that's the end of the mirror puzzle. So you're in this hallway. There's nothing special about this hallway over here. There's nothing on this side either. And at that point, it stops facading in the mirror. And then you come down this room, and this is the actual place where you get teleported. And from here, we are in that puzzle. Over here is just your standard thing. Let's talk about this puzzle a little bit. So, what I would do is this. Just aesthetically, if you get rid of all of this light that's up, I think we were playing on peaceful. We never fought anything, so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be. So now you've got this dimmer room. So that already helps a little bit. Maybe what you do is you put one right here. So it focuses a little bit. Maybe you don't bother with that. If you put one right there, that would work. One right there, one right there, one right there. That of course is blatantly obvious. So probably too obvious there. Maybe if you made it a bit smaller, that would work. Maybe if you didn't have the sides here and made it a bit more plain, that would have worked a little bit better. If that was the only thing on the floor, it would have standed out a lot more. Just aesthetically speaking here, that there was really a lack of making it obvious enough. I've seen a lot of people play this game and they just didn't see that. If you could have had people falling down this way, they would have seen it, but here's the only time you fall down this way. Can you see it? Not really. I mean, just barely. You're going so fast, and if you're looking straight down, which why wouldn't you be looking straight down? Let's see, if you're looking forward, do you see it? Not really. So, yeah, I would, little aesthetic thing. So we have this crazy chiseled quartz block that moves around. Let's get out of this room and figure out how it works. This is the exact same circuit we had seen before to unlock the red thing. He's just done it in a different shape. Interesting. So it's the same commands, but this time instead of being in a long line, it's just doing it here. I wonder why he chose that pattern versus the other. Probably just trying to keep things all in the same space. I wouldn't have spent the effort, really, honestly. Let's see. Where is the circuitry is the question that activates the arrows. There's circuitry and things all up in here and all down here. Here we have the spawners that are activating the arrows. Question is, what are the spawners triggering? This one is just get close enough and you'll lose all your items. That's for the red line. Uh, let's see. What happens if I spawn a villager? Will villagers activate spawners? I don't think they will. Nope. Interesting. And it's getting activated when I am very close to it. So how is this working? It's gotta be testing for a player. Oh, if I only had some other person who would play it with me. Where is this getting triggered? Where is that circuitry? This is an interesting conundrum. The circuitry could be basically anywhere. In theory, it could be anywhere. We'll have to look at all the circuitry and figure it out. So let's move on. Let's see if this might be it. Effects, difficulty, effects, scoreboard player at M4. If that, what does that even do? What does any of this do? Redstone block, redstone block, redstone block, set block, set block. All kinds of redstone blocks getting set here. And then this all sets air. It almost feels like there's something going on here. If this goes off, let's see. This thing's not. There we go. We throw that. Where's the setting blocks in all this? This powers this, which might lock that, but I don't think it does. So I have no idea. Let's look at this puzzle. This puzzle's not that complicated. Each one of these guys how did this work? Interesting. It has a spawner that is doing summoning a block. I think this is just actually summoning the redstone block. Oh, an XP orb. It's summoning an XP orb to activate some circuitry. And then what? There's like nothing here. It must actually be testing these things. How is it doing that? Let's go above. Oh! Interesting. So, in this is commands. This summons the clay here, and this down below destroys the clay. And whether there is a redstone block here or a redstone block here determines it. So if I just, well actually no, I don't even need to put a redstone block here. I didn't see this torch. So as soon as that goes, it flicks to the other one. So let's get a good look down there. You see there's no bridge now. I put one there. There's the green bridge. I destroy it. Green bridge gets destroyed. So that's pretty amazing. But the real amazing part is these right here. This could actually technically allow you to redo this whole thing. There's some circuitry somewhere around here that is comparing each one of these uh, triggers, and if they match, it summons a redstone, and if they don't, it doesn't. I don't know exactly where. Here we have another spiral using the old design again, except for slight difference in where he placed the blocks again. I don't know why he would have spent so much time for that. And then what is this over here? Let's see what this is. Teleports, 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 teleports. This doesn't seem like that has anything to do with anything. I see a line here. Redstone block, redstone air, summon air, entities, hurt entities, falling sand, hurt enemies, falling sand, summoning like falling sand. This cross looks deceivously like the controller for that puzzle down over here. Could it be? How does this work? Summon a redstone block. Let's just power this thing. Okay, so we're getting a clock. This clock is summoning sand here. And if I power this, what happens? Nothing. What is this mess? This is an interesting thing. I can see that if you put this here, it will power everything this direction. Set block has an iron door, set as air, set as air. Set it as air, set as an air. Everything's getting set as air in very specific things. -14 in the vertical. So it's like moving things downward as air. This whole thing is some other clock. And so what are these commands doing? Sets it as iron doors, iron doors. Really? Somewhere iron doors are being summoned. And are the iron doors doing something? Carpets? What's he doing with carpets? This is just ridiculous. there's a spawner here. And I guess I could try and power these, but they're not powering. Set block is there, set block is there. It's setting the block way above here is there. It's this whole working up and down this path. Teleport the player if ever so slightly, like one block one way. Spawn points. Set the block as redstone. I think there's a whole clock here going. Oh! All of a sudden it makes perfect sense. So that makes perfect sense now. We have gone to yet a third puzzle. But everything makes sense at least. So redstone clock was just summoning falling sand into entities down and down and down. And the buttons on here on the floor for this puzzle, it's not that difficult. They are all missing, but they were there. Sets just a redstone block 20 things higher than that, so somewhere right about here. And so there's another one over here. Same thing, sets it as redstone, but sets it so fast that the torch stays. And then it sets some more blocks, and then it tests for a player, just to make sure, I guess, you're in that area. And then they have these flip-flop switches that will either activate one thing or the other. So if I do this and activate that, well, this looks really complicated, but it really isn't. Let's see. If I put the redstone here and just, this is just summoning redstone blocks as they go down very fastly. I imagine there's a redstone block happening in several of these, but let's see. Let's get in the puzzle. So we can't walk through them normally, and it sets the carpet. Here's the iron doors that he was using to stop us on both sides. And then we can toggle, and when we toggle, it's all open. Alright, so using iron doors as barrier blocks, using all of that. Now, this section, is this more of the puzzle, or is this just a teleport? If you go this way, and this way, and this way, yeah, it eventually teleports you with that spawner right there. And then if you go the other way, fact, it did teleport me. It teleported me right to not this section. Wouldn't put us right in the green. It meant to put us, I think, right back there. So let's get our bearings straight. We've seen everything over here and everything down this line. We've seen this room and figured that one out, except for the circuitry part, which is up here. Good. So let's come back here. Set block, set block, test for block. Each one of these is testing for a block right here to be a lever in a specific direction. It's not doing a compare, actually. I have to take that back. I thought it was doing a compare, but then I remembered this was 1.74 and thus there cannot be a compare because that doesn't exist yet. It was created later. And once we test for player, we teleport the player. Why do we teleport the player? Why would we teleport the player at that specific area? That doesn't make any sense. Teleported Harry to that place. Who's Harry? He's got all kinds of fake people hidden around this area, like players that are somehow logged in but not real players. I don't know if you can even do that in 1.84. I think they closed that ability. Here we can do some music. That is the same thing, obviously. Scoreboard for Angie. Where is this one? This is the puzzle with a regular old tester into it. Item tester, so we don't need to worry too much about that one. So we saw a big old group of circuitry over there. Maybe this circuitry here is the stuff. These look like just, see, V, right, up, and left. Here's our circuitry that we were missing. Good. So that doesn't say V, that says down. How we are activating these is beyond me. So all of these step on these and they test for players at this area. Test 4 is not working, but if it did work, it would be sending power in such a way. Oh, I get it. The spawner down here, I think, is somehow spawning a item on all of these. And then each one of these is testing for a player in a specific different area. So if you were at the up place position on the D-pad, this one right here is the up position. This one right here would be the left position. This one would be the right position. And by that circuitry, only one player standing at that one position would power this block, turn off this redstone thing, and this line would be off. And if this line is off, it continues with the circuit. Otherwise, it stays on. If there's another player at a different position, it won't work. Okay, so that makes sense. And then from this point, it powers this circuit to make I would bet, a cycle. And each one of these cycles tests for a block in a specific point, because it's saying we want to move the block, but we don't know where it is. So we've got to figure out where it is. And once we figure out where it is, we can set the block there. We can summon a firework there. And then we can set the block there. So this one turns the block to air and summons the firework. And this turns the block back into a block. 155 is quartz. Genius. It's really, I wouldn't have quite thought of this. It seems like there's some shared circuitry going on here too, that if it's done in the right place, it will put a redstone block also. Maybe, no. These are when it goes the wrong way and hits the wall. It puts a redstone block to uh, protect it, to reset the puzzle. Alright, that is cool. So, we've worked our way. We don't need you. We'll let you return to heaven. That way's heaven, right? So, that's pretty cool. This puzzle seems to go deep down into this. This doesn't seem like a teleport thing. It really does seem like we're going to start working our way down this puzzle. But before we do that, let's continue down this way. This way, it really does, this part teleports you right here. Walking this way teleports you ever so far, as in just a few blocks to here. And this stops right here. If you turn around and walk into that, you'll end up here, and if you walk into that, that will probably teleport you right back down here, would be my guess. We never actually did walk that way. Let's see if we can trigger it. Where am I? Nope, it actually did teleport us back to this position. That's fine. Also cleared our inventory because we were there. So we have the green puzzle. Green puzzle is strange. We walk in here and it doesn't have the items on the wall. Why does it bother to do that? Nope, that's not where I want to be. Where am I? This doesn't make any sense. This is back to the original puzzle. I guess this is how the original puzzle integrates you, is that you walk in here and then you walk into this green puzzle with the actual thing. So there's a facade room for this one. This is, I suppose, all just a facade room for this hallway with the map room here and the circuitry to fill that. And if we walk through here, we get our items cleared and we end up in this puzzle. So that's all actually connected, but for some reason the green room is not actually connected. It gets you back, let's see, to over here. Why it teleports you to that is kind of beyond me. Was it a matter of placing the spawners? Uh, the that really doesn't make a lot of sense. Notice he is using the test for command. I should point this out, but the test for command in 1.74 will not. Well, he is using it. So why is he still using the spawners? I guess he just had trouble getting away from the spawners. Because there's really no reason. Half of his circuitry in the code 3 is the way it should work in 1.84. And half of it is the way it wouldn't work in 1.84. He went halfway with one thing. He probably was just building it really, really fast, I would bet. There's like another green room here. I don't know why. Let's see. And it, if you're in this, maybe it was gonna do more with it. See, it teleports us to this room. And then when we walk over here, it teleports us to that room. But then there's this other green room. And this other green room leads, if I can stop getting teleported. Let's see. Where is this taking us? This green room is teleporting us to this green room, which leads back this way to, where are we? This whole hallway. And it doesn't make any sense. Why is this thing a little bit to the left and then a little bit to the right? Why did he bother to do this? Was he trying to implant some strange, oh, it feels like it's not quite off, not quite right? Because if he was, he didn't portray that at all. But look at this room. When we break the thing, this hallway is twice as long as it is here. And then it's really short. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. And then when we come down to this, we get teleported to assumedly some of these cubes over there. But we won't deal with that because that's towards the final puzzle, and we're not ready for the final puzzle. I'm very bemused by this. Why he would have done it that way. I kind of understand why he's still using spawners and all that, but he was just probably slow to adapt to the new technology, or was halfway through with the puzzle and didn't feel like fixing it or redoing work, and I can certainly understand that. I wouldn't bother to redo the work. But this is where we're gonna be next time, is right here on these puzzles, on deconstructing the code 3. Ooh, this is taking a while. I surely admit that, but there is a lot to learn, a lot of stuff. Uh, the code 3 really was the motivator to do the code 2 and the code 1. I really wanted to look at this and talk about it. But that's the end of this episode. We'll start up right from here next time. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps out. If you want to support me, click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. And if you want to follow or friend me on basically every social media, I have links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.